In May of 2016, a YouTuber named Mike uploaded a chilling video titled Urban Exploration with Crazy Encounter to his channel All Around Lifestyle. Mike's channel is a bit different from other urban exploration channels. While his videos do feature him exploring various abandoned locations, his channel also covers a diverse range of content, from showcasing his outdoor adventures to documenting his everyday lifestyle as he travels across Europe. In this particular video, Mike, along with two of his friends, decided to explore an abandoned car park located somewhere in Poland. As the explorers began their video and entered the building, they immediately mentioned that the building was huge and was unlike anything that they had explored before. During the initial minutes of their exploration, they also noticed that the building was in a terrible condition, and almost every surface was either covered in graffiti or was on the verge of collapsing. As they explored further, they decided to make their way onto the roof. During this time, they also discovered several signs suggesting that someone might have been inside the building recently. But fortunately for the explorers, they didn't hear or see anything that indicated that anyone was currently within the building. The explorers, thinking that the building was just an old, abandoned parking lot, decided to go back down and end their exploration. However, as they were walking down the stairs, that's when they stumbled upon something truly disturbing.
Ale zdjęczono w setę będziemy robić, nie? Co ty zrobisz? Co? Tak wiesz? Co ja robisz? Kurwa, obiecuję ci.
As the explorers were walking down the stairs, they suddenly noticed some type of yellow jacket or a blanket sticking out of the room. The explorers, unsure if someone was inside the room, immediately ran off and went up the stairs. For the next several minutes, they remained on the edge of the staircase, all while they debated whether to go inside the room to investigate or simply just leave the building. But they ultimately decided to go inside the room and investigate, regardless of any potential presence. However, as soon as they approached the room, that's when they encountered something that sent them running out of the building.
Chodź, patrz, ja pójdę też. Obiecuję ci, że tam kurwa. Widzisz to żółte? Przecież tu kurwa nikogo nie ma, debilu zajebany. Jak tu nie ma? I co?
To the explorers' absolute shock, as soon as they noticed the yellow jacket and entered the room, a man suddenly started screaming and began chasing them. The explorers, absolutely terrified for their lives, immediately ran up the stairs and made their way onto the roof. However, the video abruptly cuts off before the explorers provided any updates on how they managed to leave the building, or if any of them got hurt. But based on the fact that they didn't provide any further information regarding any injuries, even after uploading the video, it's more likely that none of the explorers were injured, and they likely found a different exit to make their way out of the building. It's still a mystery who the man was, along with what his true intentions were, but based on everything that the explorers encountered within the building, it's plausible that the man was either a homeless individual or a squatter who didn't want anyone inside the building. When the individual realized that the explorers were approaching the room and were closing in on him, he started screaming and began chasing them in an attempt to scare them out of the building. But regardless of the man's identity or motive, it's still a good thing that the explorers weren't attacked by the individual, and they managed to escape the potentially dangerous situation without any harm. If you've enjoyed the video so far, it would mean a lot if you considered subscribing. Over 95% of you watching haven't subscribed yet. Your support really helps the channel grow, and in return, I promise to keep bringing you guys the best quality content. Now let's get back to the video. In June of 2025, a YouTuber named James uploaded a terrifying video titled Shocking Encounter Inside Abandoned Asylum to his channel, The Fam. His channel is dedicated to urban exploration, and he frequently uploads footage of his experiences exploring various haunted and abandoned locations throughout the United States. In this particular video, James decided to explore an abandoned nursing home known as the Pine Lawn Manor situated in Sumner, Illinois. Constructed in 1920, the Pine Lawn Manor initially operated as a hotel before transitioning into a nursing home in the early 1970s. However, during its time as a nursing home, the facility was associated with severe neglect and abuse of its residents. Many reports indicate that residents suffered from inadequate medical care and harsh living conditions, with some patients recounting traumatic experiences of mistreatment by staff members. The facility was once rated as one of the worst nursing homes in the United States. Over the years, the facility faced several challenges, including insufficient funding, regulatory violations, and lawsuits filed by families of former patients. As a result, the Pine Lawn Manor in Illinois officially shut down in 2002. Since then, the building has been completely abandoned for nearly 25 years and has been actively linked with paranormal activity. Given the facility's dark history of abuse and neglect, many believe that the spirits of former residents haunts the building. Some reports even claim that the Pine Lawn Manor is one of America's most haunted nursing homes. Despite its disturbing reputation, James set out to investigate the building in the middle of the night. As James began his exploration and stepped inside the building, he immediately mentioned that he was already on edge and that the building was probably one of the creepiest places he'd ever been in. Nevertheless, James hoped for the best and eventually continued with his investigation. During the initial minutes of his exploration, he decided to set up a motion-activated music box that would be triggered by any nearby movements. After setting up the device, James decided to leave it near the entrance and began exploring the building. However, as soon as he walked away from the music box, that's when he encountered something extremely disturbing.
You know what, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm actually thinking that's probably not even a great place to put it. So I think you're supposed to turn it off first. And I say, oh yeah, we'll put it right here in this creepy hallway. All right, if you want to make that go off, we'd love for you to do that while I explore this place. Talk about creepy. I feel like I say that all the time. Oh, yo, no way. Literally went off immediately. Holy crap. You guys don't even understand. Dude, we just got in here. What the hell? Okay, well, thanks for coming to see me. I'm gonna walk away now. Dude, how? I thought those things barely go off. Okay, can you step away now, please? Thank you.
After hearing music playing from the device, James immediately turned around and stared in its direction to make sense of what he had just witnessed. Although the triggered music box could be a sign of a paranormal presence, but it still wasn't conclusive enough to confirm that the building was haunted. As a result, James decided to leave the music box and explore a different part of the building to see if the device would go off again. Fortunately for James, he didn't encounter anything similar during this time. Thinking that the device had initially malfunctioned, James decided to set up the music box in a different part of the building to see if the device would get triggered again. However, as James was waiting for the device to go off, that's when he encountered something far worse than the triggered music box.
Well, the good news is that thing hasn't gone off yet. Which I don't know if that's, I mean, let's be honest, I don't know if that's good news or bad news. Because, hello? Dude. Where are you? If you can hear me and you can step in front of that music box again to know it's actually you, I'd love for you to make it go off. So it not going off, maybe. Oh, literally a knock. Okay, this place is creepy.
After James heard the noises, he immediately stepped out of the room to investigate their source. During his investigation, James heard even more noises coming from the room that he'd just left. Unsure of the possibility of someone being inside the building with him, James wisely chose to leave that section and turned his attention to exploring a different part of the building. During this time, he discovered a few pieces of clothing and an empty soda bottle carelessly left on a chair. These items strongly indicate that someone might have recently been living within the building. This detail is particularly alarming, given that if anyone was currently within the building, potentially a squatter or even a homeless individual, then the situation could escalate quickly. But James didn't think too much about this detail and eventually decided to explore the building, regardless of any potential presence.
I feel such a sadness here, just such a heaviness on my chest. Oh, I kept thinking there was a door there. I don't know if I caught that, but it sounded like that damn thing moved over there. I don't know if you guys see it, did you see it move? I heard something that sounded like that. Okay, you guys are very active here, aren't you? Oh, there's just so many rooms. What was that? What the hell? Can you do that again? What? 2 taps? Thank you. I'm gonna knock, and then I want you to knock or tap for me. Don't be shy now. You just tapped a bunch of times for me. Can you do it again? That's weird. It literally sounded like something tapping right here. And I don't know, it just stopped.
After hearing the sound of knocking coming from one of the rooms, James, startled by the noise, immediately froze and remained in his position. For the next several minutes, he listened intently to determine its source. He eventually entered the room to investigate whether anyone or anything was hiding inside, but despite searching everywhere, he unfortunately found nothing that could have caused those noises. He ultimately concluded that the noises must have been caused by the wind or simply due to the building's poor condition. James then dismissed the noises and got back to his exploration. However, as James was walking through one of the rooms, that's when he made a chilling discovery.
This room right here seems interesting. Dude, no way. No freaking way. Literally, no way. The minute I go in there, dude, what the hell was that? I don't even want to find out. Hello? Dude, you telling me there's nobody in here right now? Hello? Dude, I don't want this door to close on me. What in the hell did we just hear? This is that same big room we were just in. I don't know. That was really freaking loud, too. There's definitely nobody here. You'd hear people walking. We haven't heard anybody walking.
As soon as James entered the room, he suddenly heard a loud bang. Startled by the commotion, James immediately stepped out of the room. He eventually went inside the room to investigate, but once again, he found nothing that could have caused such a loud banging noise. By this point, James had absolutely no idea if the noises were merely caused by the wind or if they were something far more sinister. As a result, James was contemplating whether he should continue exploring or simply end his exploration and leave. But given that his sole purpose for being there was to investigate the building, James decided not to leave the building and continued with his exploration. However, just moments later, as James was walking through one of the rooms, that's when he encountered something that completely changed the course of his investigation.
It's just like places like this, I always wonder, because technically this is not abandoned. I do believe it was abandoned for a while, but God, that was me. Somebody actually purchased it, and you can now come and stay the night here. See, we hear that freaking... Oh God, that scared me. Freaking door clickbaited me twice now. But I just always worry about places like this that feel abandoned, or maybe it's just my old feelings that there could be somebody staying there, sleeping there, you know, broken to be there. Oh God. You know, and even though there's somebody that owns this place, I still feel like people could do that. That's their turlet. That's their turlet. Dude, literally sounded like there was somebody in the hallway. Bro. No way. I get such a bad vibe in that spot. So I feel like that is definitely a hot spot.
If you look closely at the point when James looked towards the door, you can clearly see a black shadowy figure moving past the hallway, and just moments later, it had mysteriously vanished. When James went outside the room to investigate, he once again found nothing, nor did he see the shadowy figure again. By this point, James couldn't comprehend or make sense of anything that he was witnessing within the building. But he did, however, go back to exploring the building for almost the next 15 minutes. Fortunately for James, he didn't encounter anything unusual during this time. James eventually decided to leave the building and end his exploration. It's still unclear what the true source of the noises were or how the black shadowy figure had mysteriously vanished. Ultimately, the mystery behind whether what James encountered that night was paranormal remains unsolved, and it's up to you to decide whether the Pine Lawn Manor in Illinois was truly haunted or not. In October of 2021, a YouTuber named Chris Hill uploaded a rather disturbing video titled "Exploring an Abandoned Tuberculosis Haunted Hospital" to his channel Urbex Hill. His channel is dedicated to urban exploration, and he often shares footage of his adventures exploring various abandoned locations across North America. In this particular video, Chris decided to explore an abandoned hospital known as the Molly Stark Sanatorium situated in Louisville, Ohio. As Chris began his exploration and entered the building, he immediately mentioned that the building had a very creepy atmosphere, with little to no natural light coming in and an eerie silence accompanying every step that he took. During the initial minutes of his exploration, he found several signs suggesting that scrappers or squatters might have recently been inside the building. But fortunately for Chris, he didn't hear or see anything that indicated anyone was currently within the building. Chris then continued exploring and decided to check out the upper levels. However, as he was walking through one of the rooms, that's when things started to take a turn for the worse for Chris.
Walking. I hear footsteps.
After hearing the sound of footsteps, Chris immediately froze and listened intently to determine their source. He eventually went upstairs to investigate, but he unfortunately found nothing that could have caused those noises. For the next several minutes, Chris moved from one room to another, occasionally pausing to listen for the footsteps. Fortunately for Chris, he didn't hear any further noises during this time. Chris then left that floor and decided to explore the remaining parts of the building. However, as he was walking through the hallway, that's when he made a shocking discovery.
was that? Listen. Oh shit. What the fuck was that? Listen. Oh shit. I could have swore I heard somebody. That's weird.
After Chris heard the distant voice, he initially did get startled by them, but he eventually composed himself and entered the room to investigate if anyone or anything was inside. But despite searching everywhere, Chris didn't find anything that could have caused those noises. By this point, Chris was overwhelmed with fear and anxiety over everything he was witnessing within the building. To make matters even more disturbing, if you look closely at the point when Chris initially entered the hallway, you can clearly see the door in front of him move on its own. It's evident that the door mysteriously moved on its own, and just moments later, Chris began hearing the noises. While the door's movement could easily have been caused by the wind, but in this case, this theory seems very unlikely, especially since if the wind was the cause, then the wire next to the door should also have been affected, but it wasn't, as the door was the only thing that had moved. But Chris was completely unaware of any of these details at the time, and was still trying to explore the building. He eventually decided to leave that floor and went down to the basement to explore the tunnels. However, as he was walking through the tunnels, that's when he encountered something that effectively put an end to his exploration.
These tunnels are creepy as Okay, I heard something. What the fuck is that? What the fuck? Yo. What? What the f? There's somebody down here. I swear I saw somebody. What? It's a dead end. Oh my. I'm out of here. I swear I legit saw somebody.
If you look closely at the point when Chris was walking through the tunnel, you can clearly see what appears to be a white shadowy figure standing at the end of the tunnel before it inexplicably vanished. When Chris went towards the end of the tunnel, he disturbingly found nothing, and all he found was a dead end. By this point, Chris couldn't comprehend or make sense of anything he was witnessing within the building. As a result, he decided to end his exploration and leave the building. It's still unclear who or what the white shadowy figure was or how it had mysteriously vanished, as well as the mystery behind whether what Chris witnessed inside the building was truly paranormal. But based on everything Chris encountered that day, the only explanation that comes to mind is that whoever or whatever was present inside the building didn't want him there, and therefore caused the footsteps and voices, and somehow managed to make the door move. However, none of these claims regarding the paranormal have been verified or debunked and are merely based on everything Chris witnessed during his visit. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide whether what Chris encountered inside the abandoned sanatorium was truly paranormal or simply an elaborate hoax.